In a twist of events, we have two extraction shooters going into public testing in the same week. The games on the chopping block are Marathon and Arc Raiders. Last week, Bungie showcased their game, Marathon, which is a continuation of the original Marathon games, with the setting and art style being very different. And obviously the gameplay as well, where the original Marathon games were some of the earlier Doom-style FPS games, and now this version of Marathon is a class-based extraction shooter with teams of 3. The game will focus on raids with 18 players while fighting AI enemies, completing tasks and contracts along the way. Each of the characters you can choose from have their own abilities that can be crucial to surviving attacks and getting the advantage against other players. The best way to simplify what this game looks like right now is a mix of Apex Legends and Hunt Showdown. While Marathon is in a sci-fi setting, the movement speeds and abilities of these characters don't appear to be at a breakneck pace. That kind of creative skill ceiling may be lower compared to a game like Apex Legends, which I think is a good thing for an extraction shooter like this. The last time we had an extraction shooter that kind of had advanced and speedy movement were earlier builds of the game, The Cycle. Honestly, the way The Cycle played when it started was a lot of fun. It wasn't dim and gloom, and there were just enough movement options to break away from gunfights, and it didn't rely on heavy weather and lighting effects that it had when it became The Cycle Frontier. From the looks of it, Marathon is trying to ride that fine line between the arcade-style FPS game but slow down to focus on gunplay and strategy over landing mid-air trick shots and breaking ankles. That said, this is very early into the game, so things can change. A character could be added to do just that. There might be other pickups or consumables in the game that could benefit aggressive gameplay. We'll have to see just how aggressive players can get during this alpha test, and later on during what I hope will be an open beta before release. And we're not done yet. If you're sticking around, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. It really helps me out. Arc Raiders is the other extraction shooter that's going to have a playtest starting on April 30th. And there are a few big differences between the two. The first and obvious one being Arc Raiders is a third-person shooter. I know with that one sentence, a lot of you have probably facepalmed or checked out. Another difference is Arc Raiders appear to be a more grounded shooter compared to Marathon, which means it will most likely play even slower than Marathon during gunfights and other engagements. That can be a good or bad thing, depending on the kind of gameplay you prefer. Another thing to take note is Arc Raiders is being developed by Embark Studios. Yes, the same studio that brought you the finals. I know I've been critical about the finals and even to the point where I no longer want to cover the game, but I want to make something very clear. I want Embark to succeed. That's the only motivation I have for making these videos and saying what I do. It doesn't mean I'm always right or anything I suggest is the best answer. What it does mean though is I'm not gelling with what they're bringing. And unfortunately, that also kind of holds true for Arc Raiders. Originally, Arc Raiders is being developed as a free-to-play co-op shooter, and even though Helldivers 2 was a massive success, Embark still changed course to make it a PvPvE extraction shooter. While I am still a little salty about this decision and really hoping that they bring back the PvE elements, I'm still willing to give Arc Raiders a shot and see how it pans out. I think the biggest difference between Marathon and Arc Raiders is going to end up being what do you do during the post-game. Aside from cashing in contracts and rebuilding your armory, is there anything else you can do? Tailing back to Hunt Showdown, that's the only extraction-style PvP game I personally enjoyed. You get to pick from a list of random hunters that already have some gear and perks, which makes dying feel less oppressive than it would in a game like Escape from Tarkov. The only reason I stopped playing Hunt Showdown was primarily due to its setting. Taking place in the 1800s, while it is cool to use these early weapons not a lot of people have heard of, the bullet velocity for most if not all of these weapons were 3 to 5 business days. It is a great change of pace from the modern shooter, but I had my fill after 34 hours of playtime. One thing both Marathon and Arc Raiders have in common is both will be paid games. We don't have a price tag for them just yet, but many are speculating somewhere around a $40 price tag. Extraction shooters are a very tricky genre to work with. Make it too punishing, you tend to push casual players away from wanting to play it, but still have a hardcore audience. Make it too casual, similar to COD's DMZ mode, and you have something that is still enjoyable, but with little to no reason to actually play the mode. I want to point out a few things about extraction shooters that tend to rub me the wrong way, with the first being predictable extraction points. This also goes for quest missions and items that are located in one specific spot or level, which makes most of those areas and levels hotspots for players trying to do the same thing, or players who are simply just trolling and preventing others from completing the mission. Admittedly, I get into my own head a lot and overthink these kind of scenarios the most when it comes to extraction shooters. However, in the case of Marathon, this may not be as big of an issue. Even if you get fully down by an enemy, you can still be revived by your teammates. Even if my squad gets wiped every time, just knowing I could possibly get revived mid-game is enough for me to go another round or two. I know one of the big things people get accused of, like myself, is gear fear. And honestly, that's not really the problem for me. Yes, it's always a drag when you lose your setup over and over again, but it's more of that downtime it takes to rebuild before going back in that annoys me. Again, like on Showdown, with Marathon, having characters with their own built-in abilities, and with the developers saying weapons will always deal the same amount of damage, regardless of attachments, that does take off some of that stress. It can be a little oversimplifying of the formula, but also focusing more on gunplay than weapon crafting or theory crafting to put together a build that makes you indestructible. I would like to see a lot of weapon customization similar to EFT or Arena Breakout Infinite, but not at the cost of 10 different ammo types where only 2 of them are actually worth using in the first place, and other redundant materials that just take up inventory and hold no real value to gameplay other than to sell or trade. While I was also lukewarm to the announcement of Marathon, the more I think about it, the more I feel like I might end up being a fan of the game. I don't think Marathon is going to blow up and be an amazing experience you're going to see everyone talk about every single week, but I also don't think it's going to die in a year. At that point, it really depends on how Bungie can retain its players and have them return every month with something to do. As for Arc Raiders, well, we just don't know how it's going to handle any of that, but I do think the gameplay in Arc Raiders is not going to be overly complicated and still be enjoyable. We don't have to wait too long to find out, and I'll be sure to put together another video after these playtests so we can do a proper comparison. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out. Let me know what your initial thoughts are on Marathon and Arc Raiders, and which one do you prefer. Until then, I am Mr. Rain, and I'll see you next time.